Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Magnetic Goddess podcast. I am so excited for my guest today. We have had this in the making for so long, but life happens, 5 kids, all the things, but she's here in the flesh. I'm so excited to have Kelly McIlroy here. She's the founder and lead designer of Star Castle Studio. And other than the fact that I literally want to eat everything up that she makes with sprinkles and frosting, I can't wait for you guys to meet her. So welcome, Kelly. Did I butcher your last name, by the way?
A little bit, but it was pretty good compared to some people. It's McIlroy, but super close.
Perfect. Okay. Well,
A for effort.
my Irish genes betrayed me on that one.
No
Awesome.
worries.
Okay, so I always like to ask this question first, how does somebody become a graphic designer? Is that what you always wanted to do? Is that something that, came to you later in life? How does that work?
I'd say honestly, I didn't really know it existed until I went to art school. I started out as a fine artist, so I did mostly paintings, worked in miniatures a lot, like paper cutouts, all the things. But I hated just creating to create. I wanted a purpose and trying to solve a problem that was always hey, what should I paint? I'd ask my studio mates and stuff, and they're like, what do you mean? You're an artist, paint what you want. But I wanted to be solving problems, which I kind of fell in love with graphic design. That's the whole purpose. It's, what problem are we trying to solve? What message are we trying to convey? And so I never looked back from there. I still incorporate my paintings. I still do a lot of hand-done aesthetics in my work when possible, but solving the problem and putting that message out there that it's clear of what we're doing, what we're trying to say, it's just been the best relationship, me and graphic design, ever looking back.
I love that. And I love how you personify that relationship. It's me and it's graphic design and we're besties.
Yeah, for life.
For life. I love that. That's good. So let's talk a little bit kind of about branding. I think that people have different ideas about what branding even is. And then once you get into that, I feel like some people kind of make this statement that, branding is something that people do as a vanity thing, right? They do it because it's fun and it's not necessarily, and I don't believe this, by the way, but they feel like it's something that you do just because it's the fun, it's getting business cards. It's the new getting business cards. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on what is the true value in your opinion of branding, and why do businesses, small, big, and otherwise, why do they need a brand? What is a brand?
So for me, I always kind of knew the textbook reasons why you need it, quote unquote. But when I really discovered it and embodied the whole, what is the purpose of it and what does it do for you, was when I started my own business. So I was actually working at a crappy agency, still doing design, but didn't like doing it, kind of sucked my soul out a little, office desk jobs. And I was sitting there kind of scribbling, thinking about, I wanted to turn my freelance stuff into my own business. And I drew this little castle with a star, which was the name I was playing with already. And the brand just kind of came. And I'm more of a woo person. So I kind of sat with that, meditated on it. And the whole thing was just kind of there. I went to the castle and it already existed as this entity. So then I just had to show up and do the business, do the thing. And it's already here, ready to support me. And I just kind of stepped into that role. And it was a lot easier than pretending, I was one thing or following the rules of what I quote unquote should be doing, that kind of thing. I showed up and just started embodying the brand that I already saw my business becoming. And then it was so much easier to step into that role and just start rocking it.
That's so good. And it's so true. Sometimes the brand finds you, right? Sometimes you walk into it and it's especially when you're intuitive, you are, you kind of see the vision and you're okay, now I just got to jump into that picture. The vision's already there and I'm just going to jump into the picture. So I think that's amazing. So what do you find? And of course I've looked, she has the most amazing Instagram, you guys, and you can find so many juicy information like about her and her process. So some of this is going to feel a little redundant if you've already done that. But when it comes to like the key pieces that a person needs to know in order to develop their personal brand, like what do they need to bring to the table when they have a conversation with you? What do they really need to already have be aware of to say that they're at the step where they're ready for you?
Honestly, it's a lot of just sitting with what your dreamiest vision is. So I tell a lot of people it's like kind of throw out all of those consisting like notions or whatever of, oh, this is really popular right now. This is what I'm seeing. People that do what I do look like this. Like, I don't want any of that on the table. Like, what feels really good to you? What do you absolutely love? People are always surprised. Like, I want to see the cool thing you have on your desk that like inspires you to work every day. I don't really care about like, well, I saw this color palette here. Like, no, is that you? If not, throw it out. Like, I want the really aligned stuff that feels good and helps you do the work that you want to do. And that's where we kind of start. So it's really throwing away all of those shoulds and starting totally fresh and kind of readjusting their mindset into, we're building this from scratch. You can do absolutely anything you want with it. You don't have to follow any of these like rules that you may have already established in your brain. Like, let's really play and go crazy with it. And then, if we have to pull back, that's fine, but start really big and we can do whatever.
I love that. I was looking at some of your Instagram highlights and I was like, these are the most intricate thing. Like they're so personalized. It's like, you see sometimes people get logos and you're like, you got that in Fiverr.
Yeah, right.
People writing and it's like, oh, that's playlist script. You have the free version of Canva. Just like these things, like it just automatically. Where was I going with that? But your highlights and all the pieces, it's like, okay, this isn't something she got on Creative Market. Like she literally drew this. And that's like, not that there's anything wrong with Creative Market. I adore Creative Market myself because I couldn't draw a straight line with a ruler. But just the personalization of it is just like wild to me. Like how somebody can be so self-expressed through through pictures is like or through art, I guess, is just yeah, absolutely. What would you say is different about your design process versus maybe some of, and maybe we're kind of answering this, but let's like really dive in. Like, what do you think is the difference between your process and maybe some of the other designers that are out there?
Ooh, I think there's a few really big things. Number one is definitely my timeline. I know a lot of designers, like they go back and forth and do, the whole process of branding over 2-3 months with someone, which I think is just crazy. Like I work best, like hitting the ground running because I'm very woo. I tap into the essence and like, I can't just be living your brand for 3 months. I got to live it like intensely for a few days and just like birth it really, you know what I mean? So my process is just 3 to 4 days. It's less than a week. We go from concept to reality, which is kind of crazy in the branding world. I haven't met anybody else that does it that quickly. And we still do it completely from scratch. So there's no templates or anything like that, like very anti all of that, as you were saying. But I'd say that's number one. And a lot of people they're like, is that really, you're going to get it all done in 3 days? It's like, yeah, because I'm focusing on this entirely. I'm your designer for these days. I'm not just juggling you with all these other projects. Like we're doing this and we're going to live it and make it a real thing over a very short time period. So I'd say that's number one. Also, it's like you said, incorporating those personal touches. Like for me, I want to see your crystal that inspires you to work. Or I've had people send like, oh, this one scarf I knit like really is the essence of what I want my business to be, that kind of thing. And it's like, a lot of designers wouldn't really want that. They'd be like, I just want your Pinterest board. Like, I don't care about this weird scarf you did. But I want to see all of that. It's like what makes you you, and especially as a business owner, how you're going to embody it and show up for your people. So like, that's super important for me to bake in with these beginning steps. And I always joke, it's like, try not to filter yourself in the beginning. So I say, just drop it all on the table. And it's my job to go through and say like, okay, that's really cool, but we probably don't need that here. Like maybe that's not involved in the branding, but I love that about you. Versus, what we're going to move forward with that appeals to your ideal client. Like that's all my stuff. You don't have to be filtering when you're giving me those like beginning steps. So yeah, I think that makes it a lot different than some people. They want like your curated Pinterest board ready to go, and then they just kind of take it the next step or like tie that together. And that's definitely not how I approach the process at all. It's a little backwards, but we always get there with like a way better product than we would have gotten if we started with like this preset, where are we landing? So yeah, that's a big one. And I do think, yeah, adding just the intuitiveness to it. Like I always pick a crystal for every client. I, just really tap into the essence. Like I meditate with it, which seems a little crazy for some of my clients that aren't as woo, but it's like, that's what helps me check in. And then I can just show up and start embodying that for you and pulling that into this realm versus like, going on to creative market and getting those things. Like they do exist, but maybe not here yet. So we just got to like access them. And that's my whole process.
Love that. I think that is so powerful too. Like they exist, but not here yet. Like tapping into that quantum now, right? Like time is not linear, and there is a place where you are living out your best life in your brand. And we just have to bring the avatar of you now into that moment and figure out how to collapse all the other outcomes to bring you to that place. And I think that's such a unique way to do it. Like, throw out all the rules, throw out the logistics and the way that things are done, and create something so visceral and so energetically signature to that person. Like that's like, so, I don't know, it just like gives me like butterflies. So
thank you. Yeah, no, I love it. And I think it's really fun. I mean, I never know, especially with my bite-sized brands, which are like the whole process, the really like quick and dirty, let's do this thing. When we start, I'm talking to the person and like, yeah, I know their story, I know what kind of business they want to build, whatever, but I have no idea where we're going to end up. So like by the end of the week, this whole thing is just born. And it's like always really exciting for me too, even though it's not my brand that I have to, be personifying from here on out. But it's like really cool to see what we're able to bring to life in such a short period of time. So love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's mind blowing. So the name of the podcast is Magnetic Goddess. And one of the things that I'm really focusing on in my business and in my world is tapping into the essence of magnetism in my clients. And so if I was to say to you, what do you think, Kelly, makes you a magnetic goddess? What is your answer to that question?
I think my willingness to hear people out. Like my absolute favorite clients are the ones that do things that no one else thinks you could make into a business. Like my joke one is like an underwater basket weaver. Like if you do something super cool that everyone else would be like, you can't run a business out of that. Like that's my job to make it amazing. And then all of a sudden you're finding these people that always wanted that. Like they're out there. So we just have to connect the dots and like make it possible. And all of a sudden it's this real thing. And yes, hello, naysayers, you can make a business out of that. And there's people waiting to buy from that business. So yeah, I'd say that's my number one, of just meeting people where they're at and reminding them of how cool it is, what they actually are trying to do and achieve, and just giving them the tools to make it possible. Like I'm that little missing bridge,
That's so good. And it's so true. Like if they have dirty underwear machines, then you can make a business out of anything.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like we live in the best time. You can definitely find your people. I promise you they're out there, no matter how obscure you think the group is. And it's just really fun to go in and remind these people that have been told by other people that it's not possible or it's just a silly idea, whatever. It's like, we can, and I'm here to support you in doing that. So yeah, that's my favorite thing.
Oh my, so good. All right. So hit us with the links. How do people find you? Like, where can they like binge bite-sized pieces of you or whatever? Like, I shoved all that together.
Oh, well, Instagram is my favorite platform because it's most visual, obviously. But Star Castle Studio is my website. So I'd say that's like my hub for sure. I do blog posts every once in a while, all that good stuff. But I'm mostly on Instagram, and then I post those out into Facebook or all the other things. But if you want to meet me there, like I'll definitely be just chit-chatting with you in DMs or whatever. Like I'm on Instagram all the time. So that's my place, Star Castle Studio.
this so much. Thank you so much for being on the show. This has been amazing, getting to know you, getting to know more about your brand. And I indeed agree, just from the little bit that I've done the research on you, you're absolutely a magnetic goddess. So thank you so much for being here, Kelly. It's been such a pleasure.
Thanks. That's so sweet. It's been the best.
Oh, absolutely. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, and may you be at peace.